Hello, in this video I'm going to explain how to rig a slip bobber. A slip bobber is basically a more professional, more advanced version of the spring bobber. Unlike the spring bobber, the slip bobber is hollow, as you may or may not be able to see. It slides up and down the line instead of being fixed to it. This bobber is much better for fishing in deeper water. It casts better. I think it casts further. I love slip bobbers, and almost every single professional uses slip bobbers. There's very few pros that use spring bobbers. How you rig this? Start off, grab a bobber stop, and that is basically just a plastic tube with a bit of yarn wrapped around it. Slide that up the line, and once you get it maybe a foot up the line, slide the yarn up the tube so that it leaves the tube and it's just on the line, and then just slide the tube off. Take the two tag ends of the yarn and pull them tight. You want it tight enough that it's not going to just slide around at will, but you want it loose enough that you can yank it and it'll move. Next, you're going to want to trim the tag ends of the bobber stop. And the thing I love about these bobber stops, they're so little, you can actually reel these up through your guides onto your reel, and this will still cast. You barely even know it's on there. Next, take one bead, put it on the line so that it rests just under the bobber stop, and this is to stop the actual bobber from chipping away at the bobber stop. Next comes the bobber. Make sure you have the side that you want floating up in the water up on the line. That should rest up nice against the bead and the bobber stop. And then you tie in your choice of hook. Most people either use a standard bait holder hook or a jig. Personally, I prefer using a jig, but a lot of people prefer using the hook. When you put the hook on, I'll just tie the hook on for example. I basically just use an improved clench for both of these, or a regular clench, depends on your preference. Give it a couple of twists, pull it tight, cut the tag end. Alright, and so what I would do now if I just have a hook on it and say I need a little bit more weight, I would just take a little piece of split shot. Wow, that was a terrible knot. We'll just take a little piece of split shot and pinch it on the line upwards of the hook that should be on there. See, even guys that do this a lot mess up knots every now and then. Let me just redo that. Hey, let's just be glad this was in the middle of a video and not when there's a big fish on the end. Pull it tight for real this time. Cut the tag end. Alright. And so this, in miniature, is basically what a slip bobber looks like. Obviously, if you use a jig, you won't need the piece of split shot. It'll just be the jig. But what happens is, while you're casting, the bobber, the bead, and all this are resting down here by the hook, and your bobber stop somewhere up in your rod, in your guides, whatever. When you cast this out, this sinks, and it just keeps feeding through the line until the bobber hits the bobber stop, and then it stops it. You can adjust this to fish any depth. This is why it's better in deeper water than a spring bobber. Just really nice. Anytime you want to change your depth, just take the bobber stop and slide it up or down the line as needed. And just add some live bait or soft plastics there, and you're ready to go. Castaway.